Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are going to start by taking you to a school in New York City.
A very specific setting.
Yeah, the year is 1934. It's the height of the Great Depression, and the world is in this massive state of flux.
But we aren't here to talk about economics.
No, not yet anyway. We are actually here to talk about a group of 389 children.
And just to set the stage for you listening, these aren't sick children.
Right.
They aren't in a hospital ward coughing or feverish or anything like that.
They're just regular students.
Exactly. Just a random sample of the population.
So the American Child Health Association, which, it sounds like a very benevolent, very official organization.
Very authoritative.
Yeah, they decide to conduct a survey. They want to check the respiratory health of these kids, specifically their tonsils.
Right, their tonsils.
Now, looking back from the 21st century, this whole story sounds like a dark satire.
Or a comedy sketch.
Exactly like a sketch about bureaucracy. But it is absolute historical fact.
And it is the perfect opening for our deep dive today because it reveals a flaw in human reasoning that is so deep that once you see it, you really can't unsee it.
It changes how you look at everything.
Everything from your doctor's office to the Federal Reserve.
So here is the setup for this study. They take these 389 children and they present them to a panel of school doctors.
Right.
The doctors look down their throats, they do their exams, check the lymph nodes, and they make a recommendation.
And the results are wild.
Out of the 389 kids, the doctors recommend that 174 of them need their tonsils removed immediately.
Which is roughly 45%.
45%.
And if you think about it, that is a staggeringly high number for a surgical intervention.
It really is.
Imagine if you walked into a school today and doctors just said, okay, half of you need to go under the knife tomorrow.
You'd think there was an epidemic.
Right. It implies a massive epidemic of bad tonsils or something else entirely.
But the researchers running this, they suspected something was off.
They had a hunch.
Yeah, they had a hunch that maybe this diagnosis wasn't purely medical.
So they did something really clever.
They took the remaining 215 children, the ones who were cleared, the ones stamped healthy by that first group.
And they didn't send them back to class.
No, they presented those 215 kids to a second group of doctors.
And crucially, this second group of doctors was not told that the kids had already been screened.
That's the key.
They thought they were seeing a fresh batch of students. They had no bias from the previous exam.
And what happens, the second group examines these healthy kids who were literally just told they were fine.
Right.
And they recommend that 99 of them need surgery.
That is another 46% of the remaining group.
It's almost comedic.
But the percentage is almost identical.
But they didn't stop there, did they?
No, they had to be sure. They had to see how deep the rabbit hole went.
So they take the survivors, the 116 kids who have now been cleared by two separate panels of physicians.
Two groups of experts said they were fine.
And they show them to a third panel.
And predictable as the sunrise, that third group recommends surgery for 52 of them.
So if you run the math,
if you just kept showing these healthy kids to doctors, eventually every single one of them would be on the operating table.
Which means the diagnosis wasn't about the condition of the tonsils at all.
Not at all. It was about the propensity of the doctors to diagnose.
The doctors had a built-in bias to find pathology even where none existed.
And this isn't just some funny historical anecdote about overeager doctors in the 30s.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Because as the source material points out, surgery in the 1930s wasn't like getting a mole removed today.
Or getting LASIK.
Right. You have to look at the risk profile.
Let's talk about that risk profile.
In that era, anesthesia was crude and infection control was definitely not what it is today.
Far from it.
A tonsillectomy carried a morbidity rate, meaning serious complications like hemorrhage or severe infection, of about 2 to 4%.
2 to 4% morbidity.
And the death rate was roughly 1 in every 15,000 operations.
So let's look at the balance sheet here. By recommending surgery for children who didn't actually need it.
Kids who were perfectly healthy.
These doctors were taking a zero-risk situation and introducing a non-zero risk of death.
Precisely. They were converting a healthy state into a fragile state.
The source material calls this probabilistic homicide.
It's strong language, but it's incredibly accurate.
Probabilistic homicide.
If you operate on enough healthy kids, statistically, you will kill some of them.
And for what benefit?
For zero benefit. If the tonsils weren't actually disease, the surgery offers no upside whatsoever.
This is all downside.
They completely ignored the break-even point. They had this naive need to do something.
That phrase, probabilistic homicide, really sticks with you. It implies that good intentions, when coupled with bad probability management, can literally be lethal.
And that brings us to the core mission of today's deep dive.
We aren't just talking about tonsils today. We are talking about a concept that explains everything from medical errors to stock market crashes to why your daily information diet might be making you miserable.
We are talking about iatrogenics.
Iatrogenics.
It's a beautiful, if terrifying word. It comes from the Greek iatros, meaning a healer, and genesis, meaning origin or created by.
So literally harm caused by the healer.
But we need to be very specific about what that means in this context.
Right.
It's not just making a mistake. It is when the net loss, the hidden damage, the delayed side effects, the systemic fragility exceeds the benefit of the intervention.
It is the result of what the source calls naive interventionism.
Naive interventionism, exactly.
I love that term. It sounds like a very polite way of saying meddling.
It's the urge to do something when doing nothing would have been the vastly better option.
Just leaving it alone.
Right. It's the belief that our knowledge is complete and that we can tinker with complex systems like the human body or the economy or the environment.
Without creating unintended consequences.
Yes, it is the absolute arrogance of thinking we can optimize everything.
So today we are going to explore this concept across the board. We are going to look at sources that might ruin your faith in experts.
Just a bit.
We're going to make you question your daily habits.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to report on the argument that in many cases, the most heroic thing you can do is absolutely nothing.
It is a deep journey into the hidden risks of trying to fix things.
Let's stick with medicine for a moment, though, because the history here is, well, it's pretty bloody.
It really is.
And it illustrates this bias for action better than almost anything else.
If you look at the history of medicine for a very long time, basically until the late 19th or even early 20th century, going to a doctor actually increased your mortality risk.
Which is just a wild thing to say. We think of doctors as the people who save us. We have practically deified the medical profession.
And today, generally, they do save us, especially in trauma care.
Sure, if you get hit by a bus, you want a doctor.
Absolutely. But for centuries, the balance sheet of medicine was negative. The harm far outweighed the good.
And we have the ultimate high-profile victim to prove it. George Washington.
The father of the country himself.
December 1799. He falls ill. Now, the story I always learned in school was that he caught a cold and died.
That's the sanitized version.
But the details in the source material are much more disturbing.
Oh, he had a sore throat. It was likely a nasty respiratory infection.
Right.
Maybe epiglottitis or quinsy, which is an abscess near the tonsils.
So serious.
It was serious, absolutely. Breathing was difficult. But George Washington was a very strong man.
He was a general.
He was 67, physically robust, a former general who had survived wars and smallpox. There is a very good chance his immune system would have fought it off naturally.
But he made the fatal mistake of calling for help.
He summoned his physicians, and these were the best medical minds at the time.
The absolute experts.
They weren't trying to hurt him. They were desperate to save the president. They loved him.
So what did they do?
They unleashed the full arsenal of naive interventionism.
Walk us through this treatment.
They subjected him to blistering, which is literally burning the skin to draw out supposed toxins.
Ouch.
They gave him emetics to make him vomit violently. They gave him enemas to clear his bowels. And most importantly, they bled him.
Bloodletting. The standard treatment for, well, everything for about 2,000 years.
Right. They believed in the humors. That illness was an imbalance of blood phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile.
So they needed to let the bad blood out.
So over the course of a single day, they drained between 5 and 9 pounds of blood from George Washington.
5 to 9 pounds. Wait, how much blood is in a human body total?
An average adult male has about 10 or 11 pounds of blood.
My God, so they took almost all of it.
They effectively exsanguinated him. They replaced his blood with treatment.
He didn't die of the sore throat?
No, he died of the cure. He died of hypovolemic shock caused directly by his doctors.
It's tragic because you can easily visualize the scene. The doctors are panicked. They see him getting weaker. His pulse is getting threatened.
And what is their response?
We need to do more.
That is the trap right there. That is the essence of the iatrogenic loop.
Doing more of the wrong thing.
When the intervention fails, the naive interventionist doesn't think maybe I should stop. They think I didn't do enough.
So they bled him more.
They mistook the body's natural reaction to their torture for the progression of the disease.
This seems to be a recurring theme here. The sheer inability to distinguish the disease from the treatment.
And the inability to accept that nature might actually be smarter than the doctor? That's the ego component of it all.
I went to university, therefore I know better than biology mindset.
Exactly. I know better than this biological system that has evolved over millions of years.
Let's move to another example from the sources that is even more heartbreaking because it involves someone who actually figured this out and was totally destroyed for it.
Ignaz Semmelweis.
Yes, Ignaz Semmelweis.
The Semmelweis story is profound. He was an Austro-Hungarian doctor working in Vienna in the mid-19th century.
Set the scene for us at the hospital.
So he worked at the Vienna General Hospital, specifically in the maternity wards, and he noticed a statistical anomaly that was absolutely terrifying.
What did he see?
There were 2 maternity clinics. One was staffed by doctors and medical students. The other was staffed purely by midwives.
And the outcomes were different.
Drastically different. The clinics staffed by doctors had a shockingly high death rate for mothers. Sometimes 10, 15, even 20% of women were dying of puerperal fever or childbed fever.
And the midwives?
In the midwives clinic, the rate was much, much lower, around 2%.
But here is the kicker that I read in the notes that really got me. Women who gave birth on the street, literally on the dirty cobblestones on the way to the hospital.
Yes.
They had a higher survival rate than the women in the doctor's ward.
Think about what that implies for a second. The hospital, the clean professional environment, was a death trap.
Wow.
Leibniz, the philosopher, actually had a term for hospitals back then. Seminarium mortis.
Seedbeds of death.
Seedbeds of death. If you stayed away, you lived. If you went to the experts, you died.
So Semmelweis is looking at this data. He is racking his brain. What are the doctors doing that the midwives aren't?
He went through and eliminated every variable. Overcrowding? No. Climate? No. Diet? No. He checked everything. Finally, he realized the difference was autopsies.
Autopsies.
The doctors and the medical students were starting their day in the morgue dissecting corpses to learn anatomy.
Oh, no.
Then, without washing their hands. Because the germ theory of disease didn't exist yet, they would walk upstairs and deliver babies.
They were carrying microscopic death directly on their hands. Putrid matter from the dead transferred right to the living.
Precisely. So Semmelweis implements a radical solution. Just wash your hands with a chlorine solution.
Then simple enough.
And guess what? The death rate plummeted. It dropped to almost nothing. It matched the midwives' rate.
Problem solved, right? He found the cause. He found the cure. He should be a hero.
You would certainly think so. But this is where the story turns into a massive tragedy about human nature and institutional inertia.
The medical establishment didn't like it.
They didn't give him a medal. They were furious. They were deeply insulted.
Why? I mean, he saved lives. He had the hard data.
Because his solution implied that they, the gentlemen, the healers, the upper crust of society, were dirty.
That they were the ones killing the patients.
It was a massive blow to their ego and their identity. And their main critique is fascinating for our discussion today about naive interventionism.
What was their critique?
They dismissed him because they said he had no theory.
He had facts. He had the numbers. Look, fewer women are dying.
But he couldn't explain why it worked. He didn't know about bacteria yet. He just knew chlorine equals life.
Right.
The establishment basically said, if you can't explain it with our current medical theory, which involved humors and miasma, then it isn't real.
They prioritize theory over observation.
They prioritize theory over phenomenology. They preferred a wrong map to a working compass.
We are definitely going to come back to that distinction between theory and phenomenology because it's crucial in the sources. But what actually happened to Semmelweis?
He was completely ostracized. He lost his job. He eventually had a severe mental breakdown, likely driven by the guilt and frustration of seeing women die unnecessarily, just because his colleagues were too stubborn to wash their hands.
That's agonizing.
Now, he was eventually committed to an asylum.
And the end of his life is like some sort of cruel joke.
In a final cruel irony, he was beaten by the guards in the asylum. He developed a wound and he died of sepsis. The exact same blood infection he had spent his entire life trying to prevent in new mothers.
That is just so heavy. It really shows the lethal cost of arrogance. But I can hear you listening right now saying, okay, that was 1847.
Right, it's ancient history.
We have antibiotics now.
Yeah.
We have MRIs. We understand germs. Surely iatrogenics is just a thing of the past.
Well, medicine has improved, absolutely. The net benefit of going to a doctor is now positive, which, as we just discussed, wasn't true for a long time.
What?
But the core dynamic, the structural flaw, it still remains. It's what economists refer to as the agency problem.
Break that agency problem down for us.
An agency problem exists whenever the person making the decision, the agent, has different interests than the person affected by the decision. The principal.
Like a stockbroker and a client?
Exactly like that. The client wants to make money in the long term. The stockbroker wants to generate commissions right now.
Sometimes those align, but often they don't.
The broker has a financial incentive to make you trade to churn the account, even if just holding your stocks is the better move.
And how does that apply in modern medicine?
Well, the patient wants to get healthy. The doctor, consciously or even subconsciously, needs to validate their role, avoid lawsuits, and generate revenue.
They have a quota.
Right. A doctor who says, go home, sleep, and drink water feels like they aren't really doing their job.
These aren't billing for a procedure.
They feel an immense pressure to intervene, to prescribe, to cut, to do something.
And this pressure leads to harm.
Massive harm. The source material highlights a very sobering stat. Even today, if you exclude hospital-acquired infections, harm from medical intervention is a leading cause of death. It accounts for more deaths than any single cancer.
That is staggering, more than any single cancer.
But it has changed form. In the old days, iatrogenics was salient. It was obvious.
Oops, I sawed off the wrong leg.
Or, oops, I bled him to death.
Right. And now?
Now it is concealed and distributed. It's hidden in the vast statistics.
Like what?
It's the side effects of a drug that don't show up for 10 years. It's the overprescription of antibiotics that creates superbugs that go on to kill thousands.
Or the mental toll of false positives.
Yes, from excessive screening. We are medicating away every minor variance in the human body, trying to force it into a perfect statistical average.
We're basically treating the noise, not the signal. We are trying to micromanage the human organism.
Exactly. And this intense desire to micromanage, to smooth out every single bump, is where the source material transitions from the body to the world at large.
Because this isn't just a medical problem.
It's a philosophical one. The text calls this fragilizing interventionism.
Fragilizing interventionism. That sounds like we are making things weaker by actively trying to protect them.
That is the core thesis. Natural systems like your immune system or a forest or a market economy are what Nassim Taleb calls anti-fragile.
Anti-fragile, meaning they don't just survive stress.
They actually need stress. They get stronger when they are shocked.
Like lifting weights. If I don't stress my muscles, they just atrophy. If I lay in bed for a month, I won't be able to walk.
Right. But we humans, with our clipboards and our spreadsheets, we really hate stress. We hate disorder.
We want everything to be a neat, straight line.
We crave stability. And that intense desire for stability is paradoxically exactly what causes the massive crashes.
Let's look at the table of interventionism provided in the sources. The first example they give is ecology, specifically forest fires.
This is a class example of systems thinking. For decades, the U.S. Forest Service had a strict policy of total suppression.
Every fire gets put out.
Every time a small fire started, maybe from a lightning strike or a careless campfire, they rushed in and put it out. Smokey Bear style.
Which, to most people, seems entirely logical. Fire kills trees. Trees are good, so save the trees.
Short term, yes. You save that specific patch of trees, you feel good about it, but what are you actually doing to the larger system?
You're messing with the natural cycle.
In a natural forest, small fires happen all the time. They burn off the dead wood, the dry leaves the accumulated fuel on the forest floor.
They are small, manageable cleansings.
By stopping the small fires, you are letting that fuel accumulate.
You're basically hiding the risk.
Exactly. You're letting the dead wood pile up year after year after year. So inevitably a fire starts that you simply cannot put out.
And because there is 50 years of dry fuel on the ground,
it doesn't just burn, it explodes, it becomes a total inferno. It burns so hot it sterilizes the soil and destroys the entire ecosystem.
So by trying to be perfectly safe, we made the forest incredibly fragile. We traded small, necessary problems for one total unmanageable disaster.
We suppressed the volatility, and in doing so, we practically ensured the catastrophe. Now take that exact same logic, the accumulation of hidden risk, and apply it to the economy.
Oh boy. This is where we have to talk about the maestro Alan Greenspan.
The source material is, let's just say, not a big fan. It refers to Greenspan as the top economic iatrogenist.
For you listening who might not follow finance history, Greenspan was the chairman of the Federal Reserve for a long time. And his stated goal, along with politicians like Gordon Brown in the UK, was to completely end the boom and bust cycle.
They wanted to iron out the economy. They wanted steady, predictable growth forever, no recession.
So every time the economy wobbled,
every time a hedge fund failed or the market dipped, The Fed intervened. They lowered interest rates, they injected money, they bailed people out.
Which, again, feels really good in the moment. Nobody wants to lose their job. Nobody wants a recession.
But recessions are the economic equivalent of the small forest fire.
They clean out the dead wood.
They allow inefficient companies to fail so that capital can move to better ideas. They discipline the market. They remind people that risk actually exists.
But by constantly preventing the small recessions, Greenspan let the dead wood accumulate. The bad debt, the risky derivatives, the housing bubbles.
He transferred the risk from the visible present to the hidden future. He kicked the can down the road, but the can just kept getting bigger and bigger.
Until 2008.
And in 2008, the match was lit. And because we hadn't had a real natural correction in years, the whole system nearly collapsed entirely.
It's almost like there is a strict law of conservation of volatility. You can suppress it for a while, but it has to go somewhere.
It transforms from volatility, the regular up and down wiggles, into tail risk, which is total destruction. You trade a bumpy ride for a cliff.
This exact logic applies to urban planning too, doesn't it? The source mentions city planning.
Absolutely. Think of the mid-20th century urban planners. They looked at old cities with their winding streets and mixed-use buildings, which were a bit chaotic.
And they said, this is too messy.
Let's bulldoze it and build neat, orderly high-rises. Separate the zones.
And we all know how that ended. The projects. Severe social isolation. Crime. The literal death of the neighborhood.
Whereas organic growth, which looks very messy to a planner on a map, is actually incredibly robust. It has eyes on the street. It has deep community bonds. It has evolved.
This leads us to a fascinating conflict highlighted in the text between two distinct ways of understanding the world. On one side, you have the planners, the people with the theories, and on the other side, you have the, well, what do we call them?
The phenomenologists.
Okay. That is a $10 word if I've ever heard one. Let's unpack it. Phenomenology versus theory.
It sounds super complex, but it's actually a very humble concept. Phenomenology is just the observation of a regularity without necessarily knowing the why behind it.
So observing that something works.
It's saying, I notice that when I do X, Y happens, I don't have a mathematical formula for it, but I know for a fact it works.
Give me a real-world example of that.
Cooking is largely phenomenology, like grandma's chicken soup helps a cold. For centuries, we didn't know why. We didn't know about electrolytes or the anti-inflammatory properties of the broth, but it worked. It had stood the test of time.
In theory, how does that differ?
Theory is the top-down explanation. We believe the molecule XYZ interacts with receptor ABC. The big problem is, especially in social sciences, and nutrition theories are incredibly fragile. They change every single decade.
Right. In the 80s, the prevailing theory was fat causes heart disease, eat carbs. So we intervened. We created all these low-fat, high-sugar foods.
So we got a massive obesity epidemic. The theory was just wrong, or at least very incomplete, but we re-engineered our whole food system around it anyway.
But if we had stuck to phenomenology...
Eat what your ancestors ate. We would have been fine. Phenomenology is robust because it has survived time. Theory is fragile because it is just a mental model.
The source material calls this obsession with theory physics envy.
Yes, physics envy. Economists and political scientists look at physicists and they get incredibly jealous.
Because physics is amazing.
You can calculate the exact trajectory of a planet for the next 1,000 years. It's a remarkably clean system.
So economists think if we just have enough data and big enough supercomputers, we can model the human economy exactly like a solar system.
But it's a fundamental category error. It's like trying to make a whale fly like an eagle.
Just doesn't work.
Economic agents are human beings. We panic. We change our minds. We react to the prediction itself.
Right.
If you predict a massive shortage of toilet paper, people run out and buy toilet paper directly causing the shortage. Planets don't do that.
You really can't hurt a planet's feeling.
Exactly. So when we apply physics-style intervention to complex human systems, we create absolute disasters. We think we know how the machine works, but we really don't.
And this leads us to what the text calls the turkey problem.
This is one of my favorite analogies from Taleb's work. It's funny, but also deeply unsettling.
Walk us through the life of the turkey.
Imagine you are a turkey. You are born on a farm. For 1,000 days, the farmer feeds you. He gives you fresh water. He shelters you from the foxes. He keeps you warm.
You are living the good life. And let's say you are a highly educated data scientist turkey, so you run the numbers.
You look at the historical data, day 1 fed, day 100 fed, day 900 fed. You run a rigorous statistical regression. The confidence level is 99.99%.
The model is clear.
The model says the farmer is my benefactor, he loves me, my well-being will increase indefinitely.
And then comes day 1001, the Wednesday right before Thanksgiving.
And something happens that is absolutely nowhere in your data set. The farmer doesn't bring corn, he brings an axe.
For the turkey, that is a black swan event. Total surprise. The data didn't predict it. But for the butcher, it was the plan all along.
The crucial lesson here is that using past data to predict the future works right up until the exact moment it destroys you.
Naive interventionists are basically the turkey.
They think because the stock market has gone up for 10 straight years, it's inherently safe. They think because they toppled a dictator and it went okay last time, it will surely work this time.
We saw this clearly with the intelligence failures around revolutions, didn't we?
Completely.
The sources mention the Obama and Carter administrations.
President Obama blamed bad intelligence for not predicting the revolution in Egypt. Jimmy Carter did the exact same thing with the Iranian Revolution in the 70s.
They treated it like a simple forecasting error.
If we just had better spies, we would have known.
But the source explicitly argues that you can't know.
Right. Revolutions are tail events in complex systems. They are inherently unpredictable by nature. It's not like counting cards in blackjack.
Ah, the blackjack fallacy. Let's touch on that.
In a casino, the rules are completely fixed. There are exactly 52 cards. If you count them, you can gain a slight statistical edge, maybe 4% better odds.
But the real world isn't a casino.
It doesn't have fixed rules or boundaries. You cannot get 4% better odds on predicting a political revolution. It is not tractable randomness.
So spending billions of dollars on intelligence analysts to predict when a revolution will happen is essentially a fool's errand.
It's looking for a clear signal that simply doesn't exist. It gives us a very false sense of security. We think we have an accurate map, but we don't. And when we intervene based on that false map, we usually just make things worse.
Okay, so let's pause and recap where we are. We've learned that intervening often breaks things. We've learned that we can't reliably predict the future. This is all a bit paralyzing.
It can feel that way.
What are we actually supposed to do? Just sit on our
No,
hands?
yes, but it's not passive sitting. It is strategic sitting.
That sounds like a really good rationalization for laziness.
It's really not. It is what the text calls the heroism of inaction. And historically, it has saved entire civilizations. We have to talk about Fabius Maximus.
Fabius Maximus, great Roman name.
Rome was fighting Hannibal, and Hannibal was arguably the greatest military tactician in human history. He was just destroying Roman armies left and right.
Total devastation.
If you marched out to fight Hannibal in an open field, you lost. Period. He was just too good.
The Roman people must have been panicked. They wanted action. Go get him, defend the Republic.
Enter Fabius. He was appointed dictator to save Rome, and his strategy was utterly radical. He did nothing.
Nothing at all.
He completely refused to fight. He followed Hannibal at a safe distance. He harassed his supply lines. He just let time pass.
A war of attrition.
He knew that Hannibal was far from home, running out of resources. He let the natural system wear Hannibal down.
But the Romans must have hated that strategy.
They absolutely despised it. They called him cunctator, which means the procrastinator. It was meant as a deep insult. They questioned his manhood. Why won't you fight?
But Fabius held the line.
He absorbed all the social pressure. He bore the insults. And eventually, Hannibal was defeated. Fabius saved Rome by strictly not intervening. By the way, this is the namesake of the Fabian Society, with people like George Bernard Shaw, who advocated for gradualism over immediate revolution.
That takes a very different kind of courage. It's easy to charge into battle and get killed. It's really hard to stand there, watch the enemy burn your fields and say, not yet.
Exactly. And in our modern world, we have completely lost the ability to be Fabius. Just think about the corporate world, the bonus system.
Oh, absolutely. If I'm a middle manager and I prevent a massive disaster by not launching a highly risky product, nobody knows.
There is no metric for disasters avoided.
You don't get a year-end bonus for silence. You don't get a big promotion for the money. You didn't lose the company.
But if you launch the risky product and it blows up,
and then you work 100-hour weeks to fix the mess you created.
You're a hero. Look at his dedication. Look at his amazing crisis management skills.
We consistently reward the firefighters, but we completely ignore the fire prevention. We are structurally rigged to favor intervention.
We constantly confuse mere motion with actual progress. We think that if we aren't running around stressing out, we aren't really working.
This idea of strategic procrastination extends to our personal lives too, doesn't it? The source material has a really interesting take on procrastination. It frames it as a form of wisdom.
Yes. We are always taught that procrastination is a moral defect, a lack of willpower. We buy endless books on how to stop procrastinating.
Productivity hacks.
But Taleb argues it is actually a naturalistic defense mechanism. It is your physical body or your unconscious mind telling you this isn't ready or this just isn't important.
It acts as a filter.
It's a vital filter for the immense noise of modernity. The author shares a great story about his own back injury.
What happened?
He had a serious spinal issue, and the doctors were pushing very hard for immediate surgery.
Standard medical protocol. We see a problem, let's go in and fix it.
But he kept putting it off. He procrastinated. He found reasons not to schedule it. He was busy. He was traveling.
Delaying the intervention.
And during that long delay, he went on vacation to the Alps. He did some hiking. He engaged in natural movement and weightlifting. And guess what? The back healed itself.
The biological system self-corrected.
If he had been efficient, if he had acted immediately like a good patient, he would have undergone the severe risks of anesthesia infection and permanent scar tissue.
His procrastination literally saved him from iatrogenics?
The rule of thumb seems to be if you are procrastinating on it, maybe just let it go. Maybe it shouldn't be done at all, unless
Unless a lion is entering your bedroom.
Right, immediate physical danger.
If your house is on fire, you don't sit on the couch and procrastinate.
Evolution has built us to react to immediate physical threats instantly. If a car is swerving at you, you jump out of the way. You don't say, I'll jump tomorrow.
So when does procrastination actually kick in?
It only kicks in for the abstract modern bureaucratic stuff. Writing a 50-page memo, filing complex tax returns, elective surgeries. It's our deep biology actively resisting the Procrustean bed of modern life.
I'm not lazy, boss. I'm just resisting the Procrustean bed of modernity. I am definitely using that line on Monday.
Use it with caution. But the core point stands. We need to actively respect the innate wisdom of our hesitation.
Let's pivot to something that makes it very, very hard to hesitate in today's world. The news. Information overload.
The true engine of our modern anxiety, the very thing that turns us all into fidgeting, nervous wrecks.
The text contrasts two fascinating archetypes here. The neurotic and the imperturbable.
Picture the neurotic. This is the guy who checks his stock portfolio 10 times a day on his phone. He reads every single breaking news headline.
Reacting to everything.
If the market drops 0.5%, he panics and sells. If he gets a mild headache, he Googles it and immediately thinks he has a rare brain tumor.
Yay.
He is constantly reacting to noise. He is fundamentally exhausted.
And what about the imperturbable?
The example given in the text is quite colorful. Sammy the Bull Gravano, the infamous mobster.
A man who admitted to 19 murders, so not a role model, generally speaking.
No, absolutely not a moral role model. But surprisingly, a role model for pure temperament.
Now so.
He spoke slowly. He moved very deliberately. He only reacted to real existential threats. He didn't sweat the small stuff. He actively ignored the noise and waited for the true signal.
And the argument is that modern media essentially turns us all into the neurotic.
It's a mathematical certainty based on how data works. It's the data frequency trap.
Let's do the math on that.
Imagine you are looking at any data set, the stock market crime statistics, your own blood pressure.
Okay, I'm looking at the data.
If you check that data once a year, the changes you see are very likely real trends. The ratio of signal, which is truth to noise, which is just randomness, is maybe 50-50.
Okay, 50-50 seems manageable.
But if you check it every single hour,
like we all do endlessly on our smartphones.
at an hourly frequency, the data you are looking at is 99.5% pure noise. Only 0.5% is actual signal.
Wait, so by actively consuming more information, I'm actually consuming less truth.
Yes, you are drowning yourself in random statistical variance, and emotionally, this is utterly disastrous.
Because of how we process gains and losses.
Human beings feel the sharp pain of a loss much more intensely than the joy of an equivalent gain. So if you check your stocks every hour, you will see hundreds of little random dips that make you miserable, even if the long-term trend is entirely up.
It completely burns you out.
It fries your dopamine receptors, and it leads directly to, you guessed it, naive interventionism.
We feel the need to do something.
When you see a scary breaking news headline, you feel the overwhelming need to act, to sell your stocks, to radically change your diet based on one study, to buy a gas mask.
It creates a completely false map of real risk. We worry obsessively about shark attacks and plane crashes because they are hyper-visible on the news, but we totally ignore heart disease because man eats cheeseburger isn't a headline.
That is media iatrogenics in a nutshell. The supposed cure, which is more information, is actually making us deeply sick, anxious, and irrational.
So the prescription from the source material is basically stop watching the news.
Or at least radically ration it. Treat it exactly like junk food. A little bit occasionally is okay, but a steady daily diet of it will kill you. Read a weekly summary magazine, not a live updating blog. Look at the yearly chart, not the minute-by-minute ticker.
We have time for one last section from the sources, and this is maybe the most counterintuitive part of the whole deep dive. We are going to talk about governments and the idea that sometimes sheer incompetence is a feature, not a bug.
This is a concept called inverse iatrogenics.
The sources compared the Soviet Union and the United States. Now, usually the historical story is the U.S. won because we are highly efficient, and the Soviets lost because they were hopelessly incompetent.
That's true on a macro level, but look specifically at the food supply. The Soviet central planning system for agriculture was a well-known disaster. It was horribly inefficient. It was broken. They routinely couldn't get food to the state stores on time.
So how did people actually eat and survive?
They adapted. They grew their own food. They had massive networks of black market gardens.
Resilience?
Every single town had built-in local redundancy because they knew for a fact the central state couldn't be trusted. They had a robust backup plan because the primary plan was garbage.
So when the Soviet Union finally collapsed in the 90s, when the entire central system vanished practically overnight, what happened?
There was no massive famine. The regular people were already resilient. They didn't rely on the center. The sheer incompetence of the state had actually forced them to become anti-fragile.
Now contrast that with the U.S. food system.
We are hyper-efficient. We rely on just-in-time delivery. We literally burn 12 calories of jet fuel in transport just to deliver 1 single calorie of nutritional lettuce.
It's a modern marvel of optimization.
But it rigidly relies on every single link in the chain working perfectly.
If the trucks stop rolling.
If the trucking system stops for just 3 days, the supermarket shelves are completely empty. We saw frightening hints of this during the pandemic. We are overly optimized for stability, which makes us incredibly fragile to unexpected shocks.
Efficiency is literally the enemy of resilience.
Exactly. If you remove all the supposed waste, you simultaneously remove all the vital backup systems. The China counterexample during the Great Famine from 1959 to 1961 shows exactly this. It was severely worsened by highly efficient central planning and rigid food procurement that left no local buffer.
This reminds me of the Drachten effect mentioned in the notes, the traffic experiment in Europe.
Oh, I absolutely love this one. Drachten is a mid-sized town in the Netherlands, and a traffic engineer named Hans Mannerman had a totally crazy idea.
What did he do?
He removed all the traffic lights, all the stop signs, all the painted lane markers.
Just naked asphalt. That sounds like an absolute recipe for a demolition derby.
You would think so, but accidents actually plummeted. Fatalities went to 0.
How is that even possible?
Because when you remove the strict rules, you wake people up. When there's a green light, you drive mindlessly. You trust the system to keep you safe. You check your text messages.
But when there are no signs?
You are terrified. You actively make eye contact with other drivers. You slow way down. You fully engage your brain and assess the situation.
By making the intersection look dangerous, he actually made it safe.
He transferred the critical responsibility from the top-down system back to the individual. He reintroduced a very healthy level of stress. He used phenomenology, the basic observation of human nature, rather than rigid top-down theory.
It's the same in Sweden, apparently.
Yeah.
High taxes, but the money is spent locally by communes, not a central Whitehall. So the feedback loop is tight and natural.
Yes, it all comes back to the exact same core principle. You simply cannot outlaw volatility. You cannot optimize away all the risk.
If you try to banish the monster.
You just make him bigger and quieter right up until the moment he eats you.
That is the perfect summary. So let's wrap this up for everyone listening. We've covered a massive amount of ground today. We've gone from 1930s tonsils to George Washington to forest fires to Dutch traffic lights.
What are the key takeaways for you listening?
First, beware of naive interventionism. Just because you can do something doesn't automatically mean you should. Always pause and ask, what is the hidden cost? What is the potential iatrogenics?
Second, respect the organic. Complex systems like your body or the larger economy have their own deep embedded wisdom. They need small stressors, small fevers, small recessions to stay truly healthy. Don't suppress them.
Third, try to be like Fabius. Actively cultivate the heroism of inaction. Don't let the intense pressure of the corporate bonus system or the frantic 24-hour news cycle force you into making stupid, irreversible mistakes. Sometimes, simply delaying is the smartest possible move.
And finally, vigorously filter your inputs. The more frequent data you consume, the less you actually understand about what is happening. Step back. Look at the long yearly trends, not the frantic hourly noise.
I want to leave everyone with a final, very provocative thought directly from the source material. It's a bit dark, but it really stuck with me.
The thought is this. If you want to accelerate someone's death perfectly legally, just give them a personal doctor.
Not a bad doctor, mind you. A personal one.
Any doctor whose sole 24/7 job is to actively watch you, because that doctor absolutely needs to justify their expensive existence. They must find something wrong.
They will see a tiny, meaningless blip in your blood work that is just random noise.
But they will treat it as a definitive signal.
They will prescribe, they will scan, they will cut.
And that steady accumulation of small, totally unnecessary interventions will introduce real risks that eventually vastly exceed the supposed benefits. You will effectively die of the cure.
So the closing question for you listening right now is this. Where in your own life are you actively intervening when you should be acting like Fabius the procrastinator? Where are you aggressively poking and prodding at a minor problem that would easily solve itself if you just stepped back and maybe went for a hike in the Alps?
Sometimes the absolute hardest thing to do and the completely right thing to do is exactly nothing.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. Drive safe and maybe safely ignore a few road signs on the way home.
Maybe not that last part entirely, but definitely pay attention and watch where you're going.
We'll see you next time.